The ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight, the British way of life is under threat because of climate change. Ed Miliband has just announced, I've got to tell you, it's under threat because of quite a lot of things, quite frankly. But anyway, I won't digress. He says that politicians who reject net zero policies are failing future generations. Do you agree with that? And £500 million announced for a Better Futures Fund has been all about focusing on the youth. Let's look at that. But I've got to tell you, when it comes to Labour policy ideas, all people really want to focus on is what the Transport Secretary said yesterday, that people on a modest income will have tax rises, leading many people to worry that they are then coming for the middle classes. Your thoughts? And eyebrows have been raised at the amount of money councils are spending on luxuries for asylum seekers. Reform UK's Dewbs team say it's outrageous. So let's have a look. And it's been suggested that Parliament should be recalled for Donald Trump's next state visit, so of course he can address the powers that be. Oh, I'd love to see that. Do you agree, though, that it should be? Well, we've got all of that and lots more alongside me till 7. My panel, Zia Youssef, the head of Reform UK's Dewbs unit, and Barry Gardner, the Labour MP for Brent West. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Good evening, it's 1 minute past 6. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. Aristocrat Constance Martin and her partner, convicted rapist Mark Gordon, have been found guilty of the manslaughter of their newborn baby. 38-year-old Martin and 51-year-old Gordon went on the run with daughter Victoria in early 2023 after their 4 other children were taken into care. Police had launched a nationwide hunt after their car burst into flames on the motorway near Bolton, and the couple were arrested after 7 weeks on the run. Following a search, police found their baby Victoria dead amid rubbish inside a little bag in a disused shed nearby. Martin and Gordon claim that their daughter died following a tragic accident after Martin fell asleep on her. Ofcom has launched an investigation into the BBC over its Gaza documentary. Earlier today, the BBC admitted that the programme, Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone, breached its own editorial guidelines. A review found the broadcaster failed to disclose that the documentary was narrated by a son of a Hamas official. The film was pulled from iPlayer earlier this year amid backlash. Production company Hoyo Films knew the boy's background, but no one at the BBC did. The Culture Secretary earlier said that she's pleased the BBC has acknowledged catastrophic failures, while Director General Tim Davie called it a significant failing and pledged action to prevent it from happening again. Sir Keir Starmer has thanked emergency responders and said his thoughts are with the families and loved ones of the 4 people who died after a plane crash at London Southend Airport yesterday. Earlier, Essex Police confirmed that the plane was heading to the Netherlands and that while the official identities of the victims have yet to be confirmed, it is understood that they are foreign nationals. The aircraft came down shortly after takeoff, rolling to the left before nosediving into grass near the runway. Images posted online showed large flames and a cloud of black smoke following the crash. The airport remains closed until further notice. President Trump has announced that the US has made a deal to send weapons to NATO, threatening to impose very severe tariffs on Russia in 50 days if there is no deal to stop the war in Ukraine. The president made the comments during a meeting with NATO chief Mark Rutte in the White House. Mr. Rutte said that Europeans are stepping up to support President Zelensky's country. The, quote, best military equipment will be distributed quickly, that's according to President Trump. He added that trade is great for settling wars. And Donald Rose, the UK's oldest World War II veteran, has passed away at the age of 110. A sniper with the Queen's Royal Regiment, he served in North Africa, survived D-Day and helped liberate Bergen-Belsen. The Royal British Legion made the announcement earlier today. Those are your latest GB News headlines. More from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that, and hello and good evening to each and every one of you today. I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, of course, my panel, Zia Youssef, Head of Reform UK's Dirge, and Barry Gardner, the Labour MP for Brent West. Good evening, gents. You're both very welcome tonight. As are each and every single one of you at home, so tell me then, what is on your mind this evening? You can join the conversation, of course, in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/your say, or you can tweet, or you can X me wherever you're watching and listening tonight. You are very, very welcome indeed. Now, the British way of life is under threat, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we all know that, don't we? But anyway, the latest iteration of this is the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband. He discussing all of this today when focusing on climate change. Take a listen.
What is net zero was a target that Theresa May adopted, driven by the science. So what are they? They are anti-science, they are anti-jobs, they are anti-energy security, and they are anti-future generations. Can't put it better than Theresa May, and this is what she said. This Theresa May, she was a former Conservative Prime Minister just 5 years ago. Those of us who advocate accelerating our progress towards net zero emissions are labelled fanatics and zealots. Ironically, the name-calling often emanates from ideologues at the political extremes or from populists who offer only easy answers to complex questions. I couldn't put it better myself.
Well, there you go. What do you make to that? He was, of course, suggesting there that politicians that don't buy into the net zero policies are failing somehow future generations. Zia Youssef, I think he means Reform UK among that.
Well, he is right. The first part of what he said was correct, that the British way of life is under threat. It's under severe, potential mortal threat. But if there's one thing it is not under threat from, it is climate change. I mean, the guy's a complete lunatic. Lee Anderson, our brilliant MP for Ashfield, asked him a question in the House of Commons today. He asked him a very simple question. If this is all true, how much will global temperatures reduce by if Britain does everything that Mad Ed Miliband wants to do? And as usual, he couldn't answer the question. Michelle, the UK is responsible for less than 1% of global carbon emissions. I tweeted today, you can go look at my account, I tweeted what has happened since 1960 to CO2 emissions in the UK versus China. The UK sort of trends sideways and then down.
Yeah, but one of those...
And China has gone absolutely bananas.
Yes,
they're digging up 4.7 billion tonnes of coal last year alone.
Yes, but one of the reasons for that is we outsource loads of our manufacturing now to China. That's why we're seeing that decline that you're talking about, decline with us and an increase with them, because we're farming it off to them.
Yeah, it's like saying, you know, I'm throwing all the garbage in my front garden into my neighbours and claiming you're doing the world a massive service. It's absolutely insane. This country has the highest energy costs of any developed nation. That's why a big reason, arguably the primary reason, actually, why our economy does not grow. There's not a single example in history, Michelle, of a fast-growing modern economy with the kind of energy costs that we have. China pays 70% less than we do. The US is paying half of what we do. And on top of that, you have these insane subsidies, which is a regressive tax on the people watching this programme. It's around about £300 per household per year over the last decade that people have been paying in subsidies. I want to say one last thing. He is right when he quoted Theresa May. It was the Tories who signed all of this into law in the first place. Both of the two old parties have subscribed to this mad net zero religion. It is making Britain poorer.
Yeah, it was a very absurd thing that the Tories did. They enshrined it, of course, into their law, their targets and all the rest of it, but without really, I would argue, any plan as to how on earth they were going to achieve it. But anyway, Barry Gardner, your thoughts?
Well, look, Zia's making the economic case here, and I think there is an economic case to be made. He's not denying that climate change at a global level will have a severe impact on all our way of life. And in fact, we've seen this. You only need to talk to our farmers. If you talk to our farmers, they'll say that their crops, because of the heat wave, are reduced. Because of the floods, they've been lost. They'll tell you exactly what climate change is doing. But more than that, if you look at what the OBR has said, they say that if we do go to a 3 degrees Celsius uplift in the world temperature, then GDP would be cut on average by 8%. That's £200 billion a year by the 2070s. So the economic case is very clear. Yes, doing this, making sure that we stop climate change and reverse it, is going to cost us money. But if we don't do it, then globally it's going to cost us a lot more. Now, what Zia was saying was, well, why are we doing it? Our own impact as a small country is not going to be the deciding factor. Well, that's like saying, well, let everybody else bear the brunt of it. In fact, if you look at what's happening in China, and Zia mentioned China, they have set a peaking for coal by 2030 and net zero by 2060. If you look at what India's done, they've set net zero by 2070. Now, these are economies that were a lot further back than us, but they're taking huge strides. In fact, China's making more of the renewables than any other country in the world at the moment. Yeah, and they've passed legislation that is on a par with what the UK legislation was. So what Zia's got to explain is, why is it that all the scientists in all the countries that disagree with each other on everything else, China, the US, Russia, the European Union, all of their scientists agree that, that climate change is a huge threat to our way of life. And yet Zia won't accept that we need to do anything about it.
Barry, Xi Jinping and Modi are laughing because people like you buy their rhetoric. Look at what they're actually doing. India and China are increasing coal production gangbusters year after 4.7 billion tonnes last year. The UK was so sure we didn't need coal production anymore, they didn't just turn them off, they blew them up. The UK is unilaterally disarming economically, and that is going to have an impact, obviously, on a military basis too. And, you know, you talk about what Britain's impact on climate change is. First of all, no one really knows what that is, and you talk about that OBR report. The OBR, they can't even forecast accurately what the British economy is going to do next quarter. In that exact report, 'cause I actually read the whole thing, it's a good cure for insomnia if anyone fancies it. You read the thing, they're trying to predict temperatures in 30s. What on earth are the OBR trying to do doing that? They have no chance of getting it right. And I will point to one statistic. I'll point to one statistic in that report which was telling. They upgraded the cost of net zero, the direct cost to the exchequer, to £30 billion per year. That number keeps going up, Barry. It is making British people poorer. Look at what the hands are doing, not what the mouth is saying. China and India are digging coal out of the ground at record pace. It increases every year. And by the way, every year for the last few years, they've claimed it was going to come down. What did it do? It was going up.
Sorry,
why?
Zia.
Because they're much smarter than British politicians.
Zia.
They're much smarter, frankly, than people like you and your Prime Minister and the Tory, these clowns that are betraying the British people.
If I can get a word in edgeways, I'd answer all the questions that you've put.
But, right, go on then.
You know, your knowledge of international diplomacy is staggeringly poor. The idea that China and India are in cahoots against the rest of the world is complete nonsense. If you knew anything about international diplomacy and the geopolitical situation, you would know that China and India are against each other. And India is extremely afraid of what China's doing. You'd also know that actually India is trying to ramp up its production of renewables to compete with China. So this absolute nonsense that you come out with, you do need to actually look at the facts. And the facts are that for the past years, since 2008, when we put in place on a bipartisan basis the climate change agreement, pretty much every other major country around the world has adopted similar legislation to control the threat, because they know that the floods that are happening, the people who are watching this, who've had their floods happen in a way that could never have been predicted, the people who are watching this, who've had their relatives die, the figures say that 10,000 excess summer deaths because of heat stroke from the last 10 years.
So why are Labour politicians banning air conditioning? I mean, this stuff... Barry, you just said a whole load of words and claimed I was talking nonsense, and you didn't actually rebut a single thing I just said. Every single year for the last decade, India and China have increased coal production while this country blew its coal production up. It doesn't matter what they claim in 2070. These people are laughing at us. Whether or not they're colluding in laughing at us, fine, they are laughing at us unilaterally, but the fact is they are laughing at us nevertheless, Barry. And it's time we had proper leadership in this country that say, yeah, of course, renewables have a place in this country, but...
change? You accept that it's a serious threat to the globe. You accept it's a serious threat to the global economy. How would you tackle it?
At no point have I said it's a serious threat to the
So
economy.
you don't believe it is?
No, I said nobody knows.
No.
There is no serious consensus on this. And every scientist you point to, every scientist, Barry, you point to, every decade since 1960, scientists have claimed that the world was going to end. I mean, every single decade for the last 40 years, there has been a total lack of an ability to predict this stuff.
Right.
So the reality is, Barry, China, India, Russia, the United States...
all you like, but it doesn't deny the fact.
Those countries are responsible for the lion's share of carbon emissions.
Just allow me
and all
to
Britain
come
is
back
doing,
at
as
you,
Michelle said,
you
is
never
outsourcing.
do because you like to talk over
Barry,
people and make sure that nobody gets the word in edgeways.
Right.
As Michelle said, all the United Kingdom is doing under Madeleine Miliband is outsourcing our manufacturing and outsourcing our fossil fuel production to countries like China and India so that he can virtue signal at SW1 dinner parties.
You talked about scientists. The scientists in Russia, the scientists in China, the scientists in America, the scientists in the European Union all agree. How is it that you know
so why are they digging record amounts of coal out of the ground? Why are they digging record amounts of the coal out of the ground?
How do you know so much more than they do?
Why are they digging record amounts of coal? That's what matters.
Because they're bringing their economy up to the level that the rest of the world has already achieved.
Yeah.
OK? But answer the question. How do you think you know that all those scientists... The people in the Met Office, how do you know that they're wrong?
Every single person watching this programme, those of them who are old enough to remember, will know decade after decade after decade, a UN report in the 1960s, another one in the 1970s, claimed that there was going to be some sort of climate catastrophe that was going to be the end, basically, of civilization within 20 to 25 years. And every time it's been proven to be wrong. The reality is these scientists have no ability to predict
Name one
any
of those reports. Name one that said civilization is going to end.
People can go and Google this stuff.
Exist.
They absolutely
Name
do exist.
one.
There's a UN report.
There's
a UN report that said the ice caps were going to melt completely, and there was going to be such a significant change in global temperatures, Barry, that civilization would be severely impacted.
Look, it's very clear that these two are never going to agree on this topic. You at home, you will have very strong opinions. Dale Vince, he, obviously I've got to say, he has a bit of a vested interest in all this green stuff. He says he wants to make climate denial a criminal offence, he says. What do you think to all of this? Where do you sit on the net zero conversation? Coming up after the break, I want to talk about the youth, a futures fund, £300 million. I also, though, want to look at tax policy when it comes to the Labour Party. I'll see you in a minute.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, how about meeting the new ABBA? It's what a lot of people are calling Dad Harmony. It's a new Swedish a cappella group that are the biggest TikTok sensation you can imagine. They are everywhere at the moment, and they join us now. Really good to see you all. With us, we have this morning Thomas, Michael, Sebastian, Peter and Adam. Not necessarily in that order, but I know. There we go. Gents, it's really good to see you. I've got to ask, first and foremost, how did you get started? How do you even get together and think, this is something we can do?
Yeah, it's actually all of a coincidence, to be honest. It was, we were friends, but we were Peter had a bachelor party. And like 10 p.m. or something, we started to sing. And I recorded that song. And for some reason, I put it out on my TikTok account with like 7 followers or something. And then it blew up and got like, the first video got 22 million views, I think.
Beautiful.
Just
really
gorgeous.
beautiful.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co. Me, Michelle Dewberry's here. Youssef and Barry Gardner are alongside you till 7. Now, let's talk about Labour policy. Lots of you discuss the troubles with the youth, the direction of travel, the lack of respect that many young people happen to have, I would argue. And I always hear that the answer is more youth clubs. If only some of these kids had a table tennis, ping pong, everything would be all right. Well, the Labour Party have announced today £500 million. This is all a future Better Futures Fund to try and help the young people get a better start in life. Tell us more, Barry Gardner.
Look, I'm so pleased that they're doing this. In my own constituency, a number of years ago, I set up a project with 4 of the schools whereby what we did was we got them after lunch, they had their break, and then they went out for a couple of hours in the afternoon, and we gave them all sorts of sports and music and dance, African drumming, you name it, boxercise.
African drumming?
All sorts of activities that they could do, you know, alongside football, basketball, the lot.
Yeah.
There were 23 different sports that we offered them and activities that we offered them. And we measured this over a period of time. There was a researcher from Brunel University that did it as a PhD project. And what we found was that because they were doing this, they're extending the school day, making sure that actually mums could get back out to work because they weren't having to hang around at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to pick up their kids from school. And what was happening is youth offending in the borough went down.
Yeah.
The academic performance of the schools went up. The bullying in the schools went down. And that was because we ended up training up the kids who'd come to the end of the course as coaches, because all of it was professionally coached. And it was just an overwhelming success. And we know this stuff works. So actually getting kids doing something productive where they feel that their input is being valued, where they feel they're a member of a team, where they've got mentors and peers that they look up to. These are the things that actually are going to bring back that respect that you talked about. And I agree with you at the moment. You know, you see kids who have no respect on the street. And what we found from this project was that was the way of addressing all of those issues.
Your thoughts at home? Zia, what do you think?
Well, it's interesting that we're talking about £500 million. I mean, clearly this is just something Rachel Reeves is throwing as some red meat to the left wing of her party, given she's not going to be able to lift the 2-child benefit cap because it could cost £3.5 billion rather than the £500 million. £500 million represents 1/10, Michelle, of the amount of money that the government is currently spending on housing people who come to this country illegally. So there's 1/10 as much money, apparently, to solve all these problems and improve life for young people. Even if you take at face value everything that Barry said, and we can get into that. It is 1/10 of the money that, again, is being spent just on free accommodation for people who come to this country illegally. And I will say this too, the best thing we can do for young people, the best thing we can do for for children in this country is allow them to grow up in a country that isn't bankrupt. Allow them to grow up in a country whose economy is actually growing. Allow them to grow up in a country which doesn't have an education system that teaches them to hate their history, hate their culture, and hate their country, frankly, in many cases. So, you know, all of this is a massive distraction. At the nexus of all of these points, by the way, was, I think it was this morning, I saw Rachel Reeves doing a big social media post and big, glossy, highly produced video about £1.5 million being invested in chess. Which is, by the way, somebody pointed out that that's exactly what Rishi Sunak did about a year before the general election.
Yeah, he was all about maths and stuff like that, wasn't
he? No, but it was chess as well. There was a specific thing, sort of this... Look, I enjoy chess. Nothing wrong with a bit of chess. But £1.5 million in a national budget of £1.2 trillion. They're rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, Michelle. This is all a distraction. We have to sort our economy out. We have student politicians running the country. And frankly, all of this is a Band-Aid.
Well, it's all right. You talk about young people, because I saw one of the universities today, I think it was Manchester, but I'll fact-check it myself. They were all celebrating today because it's National or International Non-Binary Day. There's pages and pages and pages of how I can be an ally to non-binary people and all the rest. I just think, God, really?
Sia, I noticed that you didn't actually say that it was a bad thing to be investing in youth services. So, you criticise it for not being enough, saying it's, you know, it's a pittance. You know, I may agree with you that if you want to do this properly across the country, then you might need more money to do it. But actually, do you agree that giving young people those services, making sure that there is the youth services available for people, that they can be part of teams, whether it's boxing or whether it's football or whatever it is, that attracts them and gets them motivated positively rather than hanging around on street corners or getting recruited into gangs? Isn't that a positive thing? Wouldn't you welcome it?
You framed the question in a way in which it would be impossible for me to not say yes. Of course you want. Of course you want. Of course. It is good for young people to have activities. But Barry, I spend a huge amount of time now in county halls across the country, particularly inside the councils which Reform now controls. And I have seen, you know, how much pressure there is under budgets for parks and for libraries. All of the things you're describing, by the way, and the sense of learned helplessness in those councils, because they're all sitting there saying, well, actually, these statutory social care budgets that we're having to spend money on are totally out of control. We have no ability to have any influence over them. And then I think we're going to talk about this in a bit. The insane amount of money, I keep going back to it, Barry. Yes, we should be spending more on British people, and I don't see how we can have any serious conversation about cutting benefits for British people while we have 170,000 predominantly men who are basically invading our country since 2018, who are being not just not repelled by our Navy, but being given unlimited free stuff and living a life of leisure at the British taxpayers' expense. So that's my point. This is a total distraction. And until that abomination is solved, no one's going to have a serious conversation.
I've got to tell you, one of the challenges that the Labour Party have got is no matter what topic it is, no matter what policy gets announced, whether it's cutting this or growing that or whatever it is, it keeps coming back. I'm looking at my inbox now. It keeps coming back. You're all getting in touch and saying, but Michelle, the bottom line is if you do not get a hold of the unfairness and all the rest of it that's going on with the spend on asylum seekers, none of this stuff will ever be well received because it's been seen as a pittance, it's been seen as unfair and all the rest of it. So look, let's move on to some of the things that I know you want to talk about. I want to look at what Zia was just suggesting in terms of council spending, some of the things that asylum seekers are doing. I also want to talk about Donald Trump. I'll see you in a minute.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Plenty of dry weather, sunshine across much of Europe over the next few days. Hot in Turkey at the moment, temperatures above average. The risk of 1 or 2 showers across Greece into Italy, but many places dry. Lots of sunny spells again, a few showers into southern parts of France. Spain and Portugal, lots of sunshine, temperatures in the low 30s. A little more cloud towards the Canary Islands, a little breezy here too. Over the next few days, it remains hot and sunny across all areas.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A wet and windy day for quite a few of us tomorrow, and a fresher feel as well. It already started to turn a bit cooler through the day today compared to the weekend, but look at this. A low pressure system moving in, the isobars squidging together. The winds picking up tonight across Wales and southwest England especially. Today's rain lingering across Scotland, affecting the far north of the mainland and the Western Isles, and then more showery rain coming into Northern Ireland, western parts of England and Wales through the night, and some showers in southern Scotland as well. It will be a cooler, fresher, less humid night. Temperatures down into the low teens, maybe even into single figures across some parts of Scotland. A fine day generally over northern Scotland once we've lost the early cloud, but far from that elsewhere as wet weather and windy weather comes into the west. Very gusty around the coast of southwest England and Wales, and seasonably windy here through the Irish Sea. It's also going to be pretty wet. The rain will be heading away from Northern Ireland, spreading into southern parts of Scotland. But as I mentioned, much of northern Scotland having a dry and a bright day, although it may start a little bit murky with some drizzly rain over the Northern Isles. But it's wet and windy in this central swathe. That rain at times into the central belt, moving into northern England and across much of Wales, eventually into the Midlands. Not much of it getting to eastern counties of England, certainly not the southeast and East Anglia until late on. It will be a cooler, fresher day, certainly feeling much cooler on the west coast of Wales with those gusty winds. Same goes for southwest England. So we'll like to see a bit of rain turning up here through the night, and that could linger into Wednesday. A few scattered showers over central, northern and eastern parts of England, maybe southern Scotland on Wednesday, but many places on Wednesday will be dry and bright with some sunshine. But instead of the heat of the weekend, temperatures much closer to the average, most places getting into the low 20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Motorists are advised to exercise extreme caution on the A9 Dornoch Bridge due to strong winds causing hazardous driving conditions. Roadworks on the M48-7 bridge require the closure of westbound lanes, and travellers should follow the diversion routes. In Lancashire, a severe collision has closed all lanes on the M6 between junctions 33 and 32, causing significant delays. Drivers should find alternative routes. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services face disruptions due to track issues between Rugby and Stafford and Carlisle and Motherwell. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs and Co. Alongside me, I've got my panels here, Yousef, the head of Reform UK's Dirge, and Barry Gardiner, the Labour MP for Brent West. I was going on a little rant then in the break, so I was, about Pride Month. It was supposed to be done and dusted, wasn't it, in June? How come, when I'm still wandering around streets, I was in central London at the weekend, how come all these big Pride flags are all still hanging down all over the... Not on your watch, I bet, actually, as I say this out loud. Reform UK, I bet you wouldn't be having any of that. It's at your council offices and things like that. No, we wouldn't.
Well, we've already passed, our councils have already passed motions to say that any flag that isn't, the Union flag or the St George's flag, given their English councils that we control, or the flags of our military, armed forces, or that particular county, may not be flown inside county premises. And I think that's a very common sense approach.
Common sense. Well, anyway, that's what I was ranting about in the break, just in case you're intrigued what goes on behind the scenes. Lots of you, we were just talking about situations in terms of cost cuttings, investing in the young and so on. All that you guys keep saying to me, and it happens all the time, every day, irrespective of the policy, you keep just getting in touch and saying, but Michelle, we are spending an absolute fortune putting people up in hotels, asylum seekers so-called, sending them off here, there and everywhere. You feel there is such a gross unfairness in this system. Not least, by the way, because many of you feel that some of these so-called asylum seekers have better lives than what you're able to afford yourselves and or your children. At the weekend, a headline caught my eyes here, Yousef. Crazy golf trips, circus tickets and countless Amazon parcels. It was all about Kent County Council and how much they've been spending, for example, on some of these things. Tell us more.
Yeah, it was Kent and a whole bunch of other councils as well. So, look, British people are struggling. The cost of their weekly shop keeps going up. They're petrified to open their energy bills because of the crazy net zero zealotry we just talked about. And so they can barely find the time or have the money to take their families out to the circus or to the cinema or to crazy golf or to trampolining. And yet, that is exactly what they are funding by paying their taxes. We've looked at the receipts. We've seen... I mean, look, British taxpayers paying for asylum seekers and illegal migrants, Michelle, to go to the circus. I mean, the jokes write themselves. And not just that, hundreds of thousands of pounds on fast food, McDonald's, Nando's, Domino's, Pizza Express. We've got Virgin Atlantic flights. And this, by the way, is just the first, set of findings that we gave the Daily Mail. We've got a whole... But this is the tip of the iceberg. It's going to, if this is making people's blood boil, wait till you see what's going to come out in the coming weeks. The problem with all of this, Michelle, is it speaks to the fact that the social contract in this country is hanging by a thread. Again, we hear time and again. I spent a huge amount of time, obviously, during the Runcorn and Helsby parliamentary by-election in Runcorn, talking to people who were telling me exactly that. Exactly this, that they are struggling and that they don't have time or the money to take their kids out on these sorts of activities. The safari park, the British taxpayers are paying for asylum seekers to go to safari parks at their expense. And then we hear Tory and Labour politicians talk about a deterrent. Deterrent? This is a life of leisure. This is a life of leisure that you get if you come to this country illegally. And it speaks to the utter abhorrence, frankly, of the way politicians have run this country now for decades.
I can hear you shouting at your screens. I can hear you. I saw some fellow, actually, the other day. He got in his car. I don't encourage his behaviour, by the way. I'm just reporting what I saw. He went through and there was an asylum seeker rate, and he said him and his family were asylum seekers. He saved himself an absolute small fortune. Then he was questioning at the end, why should I, as a British citizen, be paying a small fortune to access this facility, whereby someone that's entered the country illegally, as an example, gets it at a fraction of the cost? I thought it was a very good question. Anyway, Barry Gardner, your thoughts?
Look, I don't condone anybody being given circus tickets on the public account. What I would say, though, is that that's why it's really important that the backlog of asylum claims is being dealt with. And that's why you will know that the court system basically ground to a halt, because the Home Office under the Conservatives was not processing those applications. And that's why we have the backlog in the hotels. That's why all those people are there. And, you know, it's great. In the last year, we've actually closed now 6, I think, of those hotels. They've managed to shut down because we speeded up the process. But not only that, it's about also looking at...
Barry, you've just moved them into HMOs.
I let you speak.
I know, I was about to jump back in and push back, and I decided to shut up and let you carry on. Go on, carry on.
Barry, go on.
You know, the government is now pushing right into the illegal working market and trying to address that, because that, of course, is a huge draw for people to come here and then to work illegally if they're able to get into this country. And to make sure that people can't do that, that's why we've cracked down on that. So there's no one silver bullet, and the whole business of the one in, one out, we can talk about that. Ultimately, that's not going to make any difference to the numbers at the moment. But what it has done, and it's very important that it has, is it's established that there is a shared responsibility. And for the first time, we will have processing of asylum claims outside of the UK. That means that we know that a certain amount of people who are coming here have already been pre-vetted as people who have a well-founded fear of persecution. Now, it's a pilot phase. If we can ramp that up, so it's not just 50 a week, but we're actually then looking at the vast majority of people coming here, that actually does become a deterrent, because people know that actually if they come here on the small boats, they're not going to be accepted, they are going to be returned, and the agreement is now in place with France to do that. And that's why this is so important that we work with our international partners. You and I will agree that the international settlement, the 1951 Convention, is outdated and it needs revised. But the only way you can revise it is by working with your international partners to get a new international settlement and then making sure that we set up those offshore, those ways of getting people who are legally entitled to come here and making sure that we do it with our partners in cooperation.
Did you want to come back on that,
Barry,
Sia?
I mean, look, you said it's going to make no difference in numbers. The numbers are at record levels and they're continuing to go up. And this notion that now everyone's supposed to believe that as illegal migrants are coming from France because they're coming to work here illegally. They're coming here because we're a soft touch. They get free healthcare, free accommodation, whether it's in hotels. If you're closing down hotels, all you're doing is throwing them into HMOs, again, into communities who have no say about this and are frankly being terrorised in many cases by these people, it's particularly outside schools. And fundamentally, we are in this situation because people are coming here because they get free trips to the circus, they get free trips to the safari park. They're not coming here because of the working opportunity. They can work in France illegally.
So
they're coming here because we had a free. We need to leave the ECHR, Barry. We need to stop the boats using our navy. We need to withdraw, if necessary, unilaterally from those. I mean, this notion we have to work with our international partners with regards to our own laws and our own borders. No, our politicians have the ability to legislate over our own borders. Barry, it's because the only reason, Barry. The only reason. Well, in that case, let's ask them for that £700 million we've just paid them back. Let's ask them for that £700 million we've just paid.
How do you return?
British taxpayers have paid £700 million, and in return, all we are getting, and people watching this programme will have seen the footage of French border force taking photos on their smartphones of illegal migrants setting off from French beaches
and they will have also seen the photographs of them puncturing the boats after we reached an agreement.
It was a photo shoot for the press, given Macron was coming to the UK.
And now that we have the agreement, we have negotiated the agreement that France will take back people. You wouldn't have that agreement.
How long is it going to take to send back? How long is it going to send back just the number of people who have come? If you look at the people who have come to the country illegally across the Channel since that agreement was signed, it's going to take 7 months just to send
you
them
never
back.
do. You try and
Just to
turn it to something else. Answer the question.
Barry, this stuff is...
If France won't take them back, how would you return them? It's your policy. Answer the question.
Well, how about we take away the incentive of giving these people free accommodation, free healthcare, free trips to the circus, free trips to the safari park?
You can't answer the question, so you change the subject.
Take them back
Can I
to
answer
France.
this question?
Yes,
because I am not in politics. I am just a layperson with a modicum of common sense. Because why is all the conversation about how you're going to return people to France? The conversation should be about how do you stop them leaving the French shores in the first place.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what I would do. I would have used things like fishing rights as leverage. We seem to have just handed those over with absolutely nothing in return. I wouldn't have been given the French people half of what they'd been asking for. I would have used them as leverage. Sorry if you are involved in that sector. I would have been doing things like that. I would have really strong KPIs in place for this money that we are sending them, this £700 million for absolutely pretty much nothing. It's so insulting to people, Barry Gardner. I would be insisting that you sit there and you slash these boats, not when there's a TV crew watching you, but morning, noon and night. You get your drones, you see where these not small boats are departing from, and you are there and you slash these boats. Then you don't have this problem of how do I return you to France? Because guess what? You've not departed France in the first place. That's what my policy would be, I can tell you that.
That's why it's a success that we've managed to negotiate a change in French law so that the French police can now get involved in shallow waters, which previously their law prohibited them from doing. So slowly, incrementally, we're making the changes that are necessary to sort the problem.
And by the way,
but
we talk about...
still hasn't answered the question.
Barry, if that's a success, then God help us in terms of what a failure looks like.
And still won't.
Boat crossings are at record levels, right? All we have had is rhetoric from Keir Starmer.
Answer the question.
He is doing an even worse job than Rishi Sunak did. None of this is going to make the blindest bit of difference.
I could tell you as well, these companies, these food delivery companies, I would kick their bosses' backside so hard that they won't sit down for a week or two, because everybody with eyesight that works, you know that is what is going on. You know that these people are coming in, they're going into those companies, knocking on people's doors. And by the way, we've even seen situations now where when they're knocking on the doors, they're now performing sexual crimes against the people that have got the audacity to open their doors. It's so appalling. It is an act of national self-harm, and you guys have had an absolute enough, and I've got to tell you, I'm with you. Anyway, look, Kent County Council have told us that spending and offering entertainment activities helps integrate asylum seeker children and youngsters. It says its approach means that incredibly low levels of asylum seeker children went missing from care, which reduced the opportunity of the children being exploited. I'd love to know, by the way, are all these children actually children? Because I would put a question mark above that anyway. Look, coming up after the break, Donald Trump, should he be allowed the opportunity to address MPs in Parliament? Should Parliament be recalled for it? See you in a couple of minutes.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry, Youssef and Barry Gardner. There's a lot of people not very happy with some of the stuff that you were saying on net zero, Barry Gardner. Lots of people pointing out that this whole notion that all scientists agree on the fact that climate change is a situation and it's essentially a settled silence. Lots of people pushing back on that, saying, please, can you tell Barry that it's not true? Not all scientists agree. What happens is that a lot of people that have a different view, they're restricted in their access to funding. They don't get the media platforms that they should be getting, and that's why people feel that there is a common consensus. Lots of my viewers are saying that is absolute rubbish. Lots of you are getting in touch as well and saying that you feel like net zero is some kind of self-harm. One of my viewers, Trevor, says, please, can you ask Barry, if we do indeed achieve net zero, what is actually going to be the impact? What is it going to do to so-called global warming?
It's going to ensure that we are playing our part along with other countries around the world.
Yeah, I'm not talking about feeling nice. I'm talking about actual tangible climate outcomes.
But I'm not in the business of making a policy and saying everybody else has to do it, but we don't. I'm in the business of saying we'll do our part if everybody else does theirs.
Yes,
and
but
that's
Trevor
what
is
we're
asking.
doing theirs.
But Trevor is asking, my viewer Trevor is asking me to ask you, if we basically bankrupt ourselves, lose loads of jobs, perform self-harm to achieve net zero, what will the tangible outcome be on the climate?
Well, if he's assuming that the rest of the world do nothing...
No, he's not talking about the rest of the world, he's talking about us. Well, if we harm ourselves, what are we going to achieve?
Well, the point is, this is not something in isolation. This is a problem the world has to solve together, and we all must play our part in doing it. Anybody who's got a problem, whether it's at work, in a family, you know that actually everybody's got their role in getting a problem sorted. Now, we have to play our part, otherwise we can't expect everybody else to play theirs. All we're trying to do is to make sure that we don't have anybody who can say, well, why is the UK not doing it? Zia pointed...
Who cares? Who cares what other country... This is what I've never understood about this business, about this country. We should be first and foremost focusing on the betterment of this country, progressing ourselves, excelling ourselves, advancing ourselves. Who cares what other random countries want to point out and say what we're doing and what we're not doing?
That climate change poses.
Yes, but there's got to be a balance. If we're going to bankrupt ourselves, self-harm, lose goodness knows how many jobs, whilst everyone else does what they want, just so we can say out we're nice.
The damage to the global economy and to our economy from runaway climate change is infinitely greater than the cost of stopping it. And that's why we all have to play our part in stopping it.
Yeah, and I also know as well that excess deaths are so much higher as well from cold weather. Where's everyone's concern about that when they're nicking winter fuel allowances and all the rest of it?
That's why we have the insulation programmes. That's why we're trying to persuade people to make sure that their homes are properly insulated.
Yes, but you can't give with one hand and take away from another and all the rest of it and focus all of this stuff on climate change when actually, as I've just said, there's multiple more deaths from cold weather. But look, we've not settled net zero on this panel, and we're certainly not going to do it in the next 4 minutes. So let me just very quickly move on. Donald Trump, he's going to be having his second state visit. Now there's conversations that Parliament should actually be recalled so that Donald Trump can address MPs. I was going to show you a clip of Nigel Farage saying it, but you get the gist. Zia Youssef, should it be recalled or not?
Of course, of course. He's being invited here for a state visit. It was Clinton, Obama, Reagan. They were all given an opportunity to address Parliament. Macron was given an opportunity to address Parliament, despite the fact that he's taken 700 million quid of taxpayers' money and rewarded the British taxpayer by dispatching tens of thousands of illegal migrants across the Channel for us to deal with. Absolute disgrace. Of course we should. Regardless of what you think of Donald Trump, if you care about the interests of this country, Michelle, you know that Donald Trump, probably more than any president in our lifetime, puts more weight on the manner, means and quality of the hospitality that he receives in terms of how he thinks about his relationship with that country. It's an absolute disgrace, actually, that he's not being given the opportunity to do it.
Barry?
Well, look, obviously these visits are always mutually agreed. This is not somebody, the King didn't send a letter that said, please come on the 20th of September when Parliament's in recess. And a date was agreed mutually on both sides. Now, the date that was convenient to Donald Trump clearly was when Parliament was in recess. It would be, I think, very difficult to recall Parliament. You could do it, of course you could, and you could give him that privilege. But what would happen is it's the conference season in Parliament, which means that each of the parties would be holding their conference, and therefore many people wouldn't be able to come and listen to him. Now, that might look like being discourteous. So, it's not a... I agree with what Zia is saying. He is the president of our closest ally. He's somebody who, whatever one thinks of his politics and his policies or his personality, he's somebody who this country needs to have a very good, positive working relationship with. And so I'm not against him speaking to the Parliament, but my point would be they've chosen that date by mutual convenience. It's obviously the date that Donald Trump says he can make. And unfortunately, it's one which British Parliament happens to be in recess, and it would be very difficult to recall everybody to be there.
Keith says He basically loves Donald Trump, I think. He wishes that Donald Trump would make the UK the next US state and return freedom of speech and thought to this country. He says that that's one of the things that's missing. Is it this whole ability to speak freely, think freely? Is that missing in this country now, Zia?
More than ever. But we need to solve that ourselves. We do not want foreign influence with regards to that at all. If you care about freedom of speech in this country, and I think GB News viewers probably more than anyone in the country do, then go and join Reform and vote for Reform at every opportunity that you can, because that's what we'll deliver.
Barry, do I need to worry about freedom of speech, do you think?
Well, I would look at Donald Trump's record on freedom of speech, and actually he's closed it down for many of the universities in the United States. Probably the finest university in the world, Harvard. He's just refused to allow them to take in foreign students because he objects to some of the things that they say. Now, that doesn't seem to me an open society that welcomes free speech.
There you go. What do you make to all of that? Trevor, he says he's not impressed with the answer that you gave to his question. Barry, John says, Michelle, we're talking about insulation. I've been trying for 8 months to get my hands on one of those grants. He says he's not been able to do so. It's not as easy as it sounds. There you go. Look, that's all from me. Have yourselves a fantastic night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A wet and windy day for quite a few of us tomorrow, and a fresher feel as well. It already started to turn a bit cooler through the day today compared to the weekend, but look at this. A low pressure system moving in, the isobars squidging together. The winds picking up tonight across Wales and southwest England especially. Today's rain lingering across Scotland, affecting the far north of the mainland and the Western Isles, and then more showery rain coming into Northern Ireland, western parts of England and Wales through the night, and some showers in southern Scotland as well. It will be a cooler, fresher, less humid night. Temperatures down into the low teens, maybe even into single figures across some parts of Scotland. A fine day generally over northern Scotland once we've lost the early cloud, but far from that elsewhere as wet weather and windy weather comes into the west. Very gusty around the coast of southwest England and Wales, and seasonably windy here through the Irish Sea. It's also going to be pretty wet. The rain will be heading away from Northern Ireland, spreading into southern parts of Scotland. But as I mentioned, much of northern Scotland having a dry and a bright day, although it may start a little bit murky with some drizzly rain over the Northern Isles. But it's wet and windy in this central swathe. That rain at times into the central belt, moving into northern England and across much of Wales, eventually into the Midlands. Not much of it getting to eastern counties of England, certainly not the southeast and East Anglia until late on. It will be a cooler, fresher day, certainly feeling much cooler on the west coast of Wales with those gusty winds. Same goes for southwest England. So we'll like to see a bit of rain turning up here through the night, and that could linger into Wednesday. A few scattered showers over central, northern and eastern parts of England, maybe southern Scotland on Wednesday, but many places on Wednesday will be dry and bright with some sunshine. But instead of the heat of the weekend, temperatures much closer to the average, most places getting into the low 20s.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. There's a collision on the M25 anti-clockwise slip road at junction 3 with one lane closed. In North Yorkshire, an incident on the A1M southbound at junction 47 has led to lane closures. Further south, the M48-7 bridge is closed due to roadworks and diversions are in place. On the A33 westbound between junction 58 at Bucklesham and junction 57 at Ipswich East, expect 10-minute delays due to congestion. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services face major disruptions between Rugby and Stafford, Stoke-on-Trent, and between Carlisle and Motherwell. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.